morning, Steelers Nation. A little victory Monday recap for you guys. Steelers beat the Browns yesterday 27-14. A game that really wasn't all that close. Pittsburgh pretty much controlled this one for much of the way, despite it not being maybe the most entertaining or cleanest performance offensively. But a lot to talk about with this one. Still have a lot of takes on this game that I want to get off. And also want to take a second to talk about just the playoff picture at the end of the video. But just real quick, if you guys could, please make sure that you like, subscribe, drop me a comment, hit the bell. All that stuff is greatly appreciated on my end. So Steelers defense yesterday balled out. Very good throughout this one. They finished at negative 0.15 EPA per play. That was actually second best mark in the NFL this week, pending Monday Night Football. I think Bengals, Cowboys, yeah. But I really thought out of the gate, Alex Highsmith, coming back from injury, really helped set the tone up front. The Browns, had a backup left tackle in the game, Fetty, and that really wasn't a fair fight. I felt like Highsmith was pretty much instantly winning on what felt like every rep anytime Cleveland wanted to drop back and pass. You just look at the pressure numbers in this one. They weren't like overall insane or anything like that, but they did, get 3 sacks. TJ was pretty quiet again. He did have 3 pressures, some really nice plays versus the run, but I thought Jack Conklin did a pretty nice job on him on the right side in those situations. But, Cam Hayward, man, continues to play at a Defensive Player of the Year caliber of level. I will continue to make that case for him, even though no one is listening to me. I really think he deserves to be in that conversation just because of how consistent he's been really throughout the season. I thought the pass rush, really with Highsmith in particular, got Winston a little bit jumpy in the pocket. I thought his footwork was a little bit erratic. He just seemed a little nervous back there. He played pretty poorly in this one. I think the pass rush has a lot to do with that. I think he finished with like 3 turnover-worthy plays. That's kind of what we highlighted in the preview, right? You force him off his spot, you get him uncomfortable in the pocket, and then he's going to give you some chances for some turnovers. And that's kind of the book on Jameis, and that's what Pittsburgh really did well in this one. Fortunately, they caught, I think, 2 of those 3 turnover-worthy plays. Keanu Benton's interception on the screen pass was pretty sick. I liked hearing him talk post-game about that as well. He essentially admitted that he got through just a little bit cleanly, and he kind of intuitively thought that, that something's off here. Retrace, got a really nice interception, set the offense up with great field position. He's been awesome versus screens this year. You see him run a lot of plays down from behind. I know the pass rush or the box score numbers haven't really necessarily been there, at least in what I was kind of anticipating coming into the season, but he has had some really good moments, and the dude plays with a really hot motor. And I thought the interception was pretty nuts, man. Ogunjobi, he had some nice moments like early in this game as well. He unfortunately got a little bit banged up. I don't think he ended up returning to the game. So like his injury status, he's always a guy that's kind of always a little bit banged up, it seems like. So, that's something to monitor going forward. The Steelers didn't finish with a lot of healthy defensive linemen in this game. So I do think that kind of played a little bit of a part, and something we'll talk about here in a minute. But I thought both off-ball linebackers had splash plays. Patrick Queen looked like he was shot out of a cannon on a few blitzes. He had a really sweet pass breakup over the middle of the field on Njoku, where he was able to kind of flip his hips and then, get his hand in the passing lane. I think he's had a really good year in coverage overall. Elandon Roberts almost put someone in a grave, so that was kind of interesting. I believe it was the center, Pochik, who was kind of pulling for the back on the left side of the field, and he just straight up depleted him, put him right in the dirt. And I also think that Roberts was the one who had that 4th and 1 stop later in the game as well. So even though the Browns did get the ball in Steelers territory, I think on like 4 straight possessions, Pittsburgh buckled down, tightened up. It was kind of a bend but don't break approach in some spots. The Browns short-circuited a couple times, 0 points in that stretch. I thought that was really the difference in this one. But the only negatives I really saw from a defensive standpoint was, again, just the scrambles from Winston. I thought that gave them some fits, which is kind of weird because the Steelers had done so well against like guys that like to get out of the pocket and create. Think of how well they did against Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels, things like that. Jameis is not that caliber of quarterback. He's not that archetype of quarterback, and he hurt him a little bit. Again, today, 2 big plays from him in this one that stick out. The first one was the touchdown to Jeudy. It's a great throw. He takes a hit as he lets it go, but just also like a really lapse defensively. Steelers are playing cover 3. It's a max protection look. I think the Browns only get 3 guys out in the route. Jeudy's in kind of like a nastier condensed split on the right side of the field. He kind of runs just basically right vertically, and Dante Jackson's just guarding grass. I'm not really sure what the deal is. He doesn't carry it, and nobody's in position to kind of make a play on the ball once Jameis kind of gets up and out of the pocket. They also did convert, I think, a 3rd and 12 where Winston kind of evaded Highsmith, who I think went inside for like a little spin move, broke the pocket, found the tight end. It's another cover three because that's really what the Steelers are going to play. Like they get 3rd and long, they almost always play cover three buzz. Are kind of predictable in that manner. Porter, I thought had a much better game today, a lot cleaner. Didn't get called for penalties, so that was big. But thought that he could have, attached a little bit sooner, drove on that a little bit sooner than what he did. They were great on 3rd downs overall in this one. It was just so happened that the two like not so great moments kind of came on Jameis Winston scrambles. I really only bring that up just because of the opponents that the Steelers are going to face down the stretch, not just in the regular season, but also like what lies ahead in the postseason. Because I think really this game, like the Steelers did exactly what I expected them to do. Beat the Cleveland Browns. This is a bad Browns team, and these are the games that I think that we expect them to win pretty handedly. But you think about Patrick Mahomes, just how he plays. Obviously, you got Josh Allen in the postseason, potentially even Jalen Hurts next week to some extent. Um, Guys that are going to get outside, going to create. I think the Steelers need to do a much better job attaching to receivers in the scramble drill. Potentially something that I want to highlight, whether it's in the film room or just something on Twitter that they haven't really done a great job of recently. But the rushing success numbers, when you look at it from a box score perspective, like they look good for the Browns on paper. I really want to go back and look at those kind of when they occurred. It felt like to me, just off first second viewing, that those kind of came late when the Steelers were almost allowing them to let them run the football just because of the game script and things like that. But as I noted earlier, like they only finished with a couple healthy defensive linemen in this one, so it's definitely noteworthy. Offensively, things got off to a slow start, but the run game was humming early. I thought that Art was getting a little bit pass happy in the first half, despite that for no reason. Najee had some of his best runs, I think, early in the game, maybe even on the first drive. We saw the trap play early, which you guys knew was coming. Everybody in the stadium knew it was coming. But they hit an explosive off of it, 20-yard play. I think Dan Moore had a really good block on that one as well. Najee kind of bent it all the way backside. Warren had a really nice day as well. Like his best run that I recall was like an inside zone play off an RPO where he kind of hit it backside B gap. I thought he ran really hard. He was someone that I highlighted in my Steelers Now, like Dudes and Does post game column. Gave them a really nice spark in this one. Just consistently, like exactly what you're going to get with Jalen. Every time he touches the ball, he's full speed ahead, really downhill, deliberate type of north south runner. So I thought he had some good moments in this one too. Caught the ball in the backfield as well. But the passing approach early, not my favorite. You could see the limitations that this group kind of has without George Pickens, just because of the lack of talent on the perimeter. Cleveland was just going straight up press man across the board, kind of daring somebody to beat them. Russ was taking some deep shots, some deep fades down the sideline, which just weren't really hitting in the first half. You see some of the volatility on offense, but I really thought that Art was a little bit slow to kind of dial up some pick plays against the Browns corners because all of those guys were playing at the same level. They were almost like begging the Steelers to pick them. Kind of reminded me a little bit of how the Jets were playing them early on in this game, just because we saw like Art did a really good job adjusting to the way the Jets were playing them. We saw a lot of pick plays in that game. I thought that was something that they could have gotten to a little bit earlier, just because, without Pickens, your number one option, you want to try to create some separation for some of these guys because, like the receivers other than Pickens aren't guys that have really proven that they can get open versus man coverage, recently as of this season. But I do think they adjusted well in the second half, excuse me. And you really saw that they implemented some really nice RPOs. That was pretty interesting. Gave them some life, I thought, offensively. Russ got himself into a groove in the second half. You like to see that. Numbers were much better after the break. A couple plays I wanted to highlight from Wilson specifically. The 3rd and 10 that he converted, kind of out of structure, was just really all credit to him and Pat for being on the same page. It's a really nice play. The Browns are playing cover 3 in that one. Freiermuth originally is kind of running what looks like a deep corner. 3rd and long, you're backed up situations, trying to get some max protection looks to make sure Garrett doesn't get home. And then Russ, buys himself a little bit of time. Freiermuth finds the open space for zone coverage, and they hook up for a 20-yard conversion. And really, the touchdown to 88 later on in the second half was a really nice design as well. They're getting into like a 4-strong look. Russ, as soon as he takes the ball off the snap, it's almost like a one-step drop. He looks left, that gets the safety that's in the post to kind of shift that direction. And he quickly snaps, flips his hips back, and hits Freiermuth up the seam. So it was a really nice throw, probably his best throw of the day right there. But It wasn't pretty, less than 300 yards of offense. The success rate numbers weren't anything to write home about, but they got some short fields. Mike Williams made a sick one-handed grab. It's pretty sweet. Like if Mike Williams can't do anything else at this stage in his career, he can still win those contested catches. And if you can get some of those in some big moments, especially as the season, progresses and some of those bigger games, that would be helpful. Even Scotty Miller chipped in, really nice catch down the left sideline, and that was enough to win today. They didn't run the ball very effectively in the second half. Kind of want to go back to the film on that as well, just to see kind of what happened there, particularly in at the line of scrimmage. Felt like the offensive line played decent overall. Broderick lost the edge a couple times in this one that resulted in some quick pressures. I think the Pro Football Focus tagged him for 5 or 6 pressures. So I want to kind of go back and watch those as well. But I really thought that the best thing they did offensively today was just not letting Garrett wreck the game like he did last time. Look at that last matchup. He had 3 sacks in the first half. He really wasn't much of a factor in this one. I mean, he did notch 5 pressures. His lone sack, though, came when the game was pretty much already over with 3 or 4 minutes left in the game. So, credit to them not letting him just totally impact the game. That was the one way that I thought the Browns could potentially win this one. And it didn't happen. So Russ was doing a good job getting the ball out quick. I thought the play designs were really on point, especially in the second half and some of the things that they did to navigate the pressure situation. But 2.64 time to throw for Russ today, or yesterday, I should say, really fluid in terms of slowing down the pass rush. I thought that and just the offensive infrastructure in general really helped them stay out of a bunch of true pass sets, because that's not really how their offense is best suited to run. So really can't praise Chris Boswell enough for the season that he's having, man. The dude's just been absolutely nails. He's now 36 of 39 this season. I think he's on track, or at least has a shot to break the NFL record for field goals. I think it's 44. Don't quote me on that, but I saw that stat yesterday or whatever. But he's 11 for 13 now, kicks over 50 yards. Opposing kickers versus Steelers this season, 17 of 24, just 70%. So when you think about the kicking game, the consistent advantage he's getting him, do not take Boz for granted, man. There's a lot of NFL teams out there, not just bad teams like the Browns, but there's a lot of teams just don't have reliable kicking games, and Boz is giving them that and then some this season. But when you look at them consistently winning the turnover battle, they take good care of the ball. They create chaos defensively to create turnovers. They consistently win time of possession, the field position element of the game, and those are all little things, but big reasons on why this team's 10-3 and they're in a great position to host a playoff game. They just don't beat themselves, and I think that's one thing that they can definitely hang their hat on. Is that their defense is going to pretty consistently play very well. And then, their offense is, volatile, but, can provide some sparks at times for sure. And then, they just don't beat themselves. They make it really difficult to beat them. So just to wrap it up, I do want to talk a little bit about the playoff picture. Shout out to the LA Rams for throwing the squad a bone yesterday, beating the Buffalo Bills. Still the 2 seed for now is Buffalo, but things are getting a little bit interesting. Buffalo's upcoming schedule, they play at Detroit in Week 15. That's going to be an absolutely outstanding game just from a viewership perspective. Excited to watch that, but they do play the Pats twice, then they got the Jets. So it's going to be pretty difficult to see them not winning at least 3 of those, but we'll see what happens. I mean, the door is at least cracked open for the Steelers to potentially get the 2 seed. Kansas City, who somehow continues to win all of these insane magic type of 1-score games late, is still in the driver's seat for the 1 seed. It's going to be pretty difficult to see them not sustaining that, although the Steelers will have the chance to beat them here in a couple weeks. But we'll see what happens 1 week at a time. Pittsburgh's got a murderer's row schedule coming up. They head to Philly this coming weekend. They host Kansas City, and then they head to Baltimore, I think. So we're going to find out, just how much of a true contender this team is in the next 2 weeks. I'm really amped up about that. So should have a lot of content up this week as long as time permits. Excited to dive into the film really as soon as I hit upload on this. I'm going to start combing through that. So as always, I appreciate your continued support for the channel. Just on your way out, please make sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell, drop me a comment on what you thought of the video, what you thought of the game yesterday. All that stuff is sincerely appreciated on my behalf. So also, if you want even more content from me, consider becoming a channel member. The link is in the description. Happy Victory Monday. Enjoy your week, and I will talk to you guys soon. Peace and love.